Hey you guys, today I wanted to kind of bring you in a little bit to more of my day-to-day life, and today I wanted to kind of show you guys how I study Korean. I have been studying Korean for probably about 2 years now. I'm not very advanced at all. In fact, I'm still definitely a beginner. I am only on level 2 in Talk to Me in Korean, if that explains where I'm at all. Basically, I can put together basic sentences. My listening is much, much better than my speaking. My reading is so still. So it's kind of where I'm at. I don't feel comfortable enough to speak in public yet, at least to people who are actually fluent in Korean. Like, I'll say sentences to like my husband or friends or things, but to anyone who's actually fluent in the language, I'm like, I can't talk yet because I don't feel comfortable enough yet. It's one of those things where if I start talking and then don't understand a word they say in response, I'm going to be like, So that's kind of where I'm at. As far as language studies go, the only other languages I'm decent at are French. I took something like 6 years of French in middle school and high school. Unfortunately, only one of my French teachers was actually from France and could pronounce things correctly. I actually dropped out of taking French in my junior year because my sophomore year, I went to a school where the French teacher was actually from France. We had probably 200 vocabulary words to memorize every single week. I mean, it was crazy. It was the hardest class I've ever taken in my entire life, but I learned a lot. But when I moved back here and started at a new high school, the French teacher was probably maybe intermediate level French, and she mispronounced everything. She literally didn't know the language that much, and she literally told us that she'd been to France twice and that she still had to translate a lot of things. So when I ended up often having to correct her pronunciation. And by that time, I was like, you know what? I'm not actually learning anything. So I stopped taking French at that school. So I'm decent at French. Like I can understand a lot more than I can say. And when I go through like the apps to see and test where I'm at, I'm actually fairly decent at it. But it's not a language I use a lot. So it's one of those that I know it. I know a good amount of it, but I don't use it very often. So it's kind of useless to me because I don't really watch a lot of, okay, correction. I don't watch any French movies. I don't listen to any French music, etc. So it's a language that I know, but it's kind of useless. I know a tiny bit of Spanish and Portuguese, but most of that, again, is I can hear it and understand it, but I really can't speak it and I haven't studied it. It's more what I picked up while I was living in California. And I picked up a lot of mostly highly inappropriate words. So it's what you hear at a bus stop when you're waiting for the bus and half the kids in your school are Spanish or Portuguese or Brazilian. It's what you tend to pick up. Let's see. I know words, one or two words in a couple other languages, but that's pretty much it. Obviously, my native language is English, but then I have been heavily studying Korean because I want to eventually travel to Seoul, and I watch a ton of Korean movies and television and music, obviously. So to me, it makes no sense to love a culture and their entertainment and not actually be able to understand it. So I've been studying Korean for quite a while now. However, I went for a long break where I didn't study anything. So I kind of regressed a little bit, but now I am, as of like the past couple weeks, I'm back into studying pretty heavily again, just because I didn't like that I was starting to forget things. And to me, if you're going to do something, you need to do it right. So I wanted to show you guys what I study with. First of all, I don't have any books. I haven't ordered any books yet. I want to get some books from Talk to Me in Korean because they are amazing. If you want to learn Korean, I would highly, highly recommend their website. Like, it has made this possible for me because otherwise I would be struggling like crazy. So let me show you guys. This is their website, and this is the lesson I'm actually going to do today. It's what is today's date, and I am on level 2 Korean grammar, and I'm on lesson 12 out of 31 in this particular unit. So that is their website. It primarily covers grammar, and you do pick up some vocabulary. It doesn't cover a ton of vocabulary though, so I've been using some other resources for that as well. But right now, I'm focused more on grammar than vocabulary, just because I tend to find vocabulary pretty easy to pick up. Grammar, though, is much, much, much harder for me. Like, I still suck at French grammar, and I studied that for years. This is my current notebook. What I do is at the beginning of every lesson, I put the level, the lesson, and the title. And then I typically have a few pens or writing implements I will use for each lesson. I have a ton of pens, obviously, like a ton of pens, but I will go like crazy with pens and markers and highlighting and doodles and all that because like I adore Studygram. If you see like Instagram posts about studying or note taking, those are Studygrams and I'm obsessed with them. I think they're amazing. But I will go crazy and I will spend more time doodling, making my notes pretty than actually studying. So for today, I'm using a teal pen, a teal highlighter, a black pen, and my whiteout. I've tried using erasable pens and I still use them sometimes, but they tend to annoy me more than be helpful. I go through the entire lesson. I take notes on the big paragraphs. I usually don't copy them word for word unless they're really short like this. And then I go through and I just pretty much copy everything down. I only put down the romanizations here if I absolutely need them. Like if the pronunciation is difficult, then I will put, or if it's something I have difficulty remembering, then I'll put down the romanization. And especially with numbers, I definitely put down the romanization, but usually I won't, to make sure that I am focusing mostly on the Hangul and actually pronouncing it correctly and reading it, rather than relying on the romanization, because that seriously slows down your learning so much. But I will usually, if I haven't listened to it before, I will listen to the MP3. They also have a podcast, which is really, really helpful. But I'll listen to the MP3 and then I will go through and then I will write down everything, study it, make sure I can understand it. And that way I have it handwritten. The absolute best way for me to study always has been by rewriting notes. I don't care what other study methods I try, nothing works as well as rewriting notes over and over and over again. So I will typically write down everything in my big notebook, and then when I want to review, I actually have a smaller notebook, this one, that I will go through and write down. I think I'm still on unit 1 in this, doing my reviews, but when I review, I will go and just write down the absolute bare minimum as recopying the notes. I will leave the romanization out. I'll leave any big paragraphs out. I'll only put in absolutely like vital notes and then the words and grammar points that I'm learning. And that really, really helps me a lot. Now, I'm not staying on any sort of specific schedule, mostly because I can't necessarily control what my schedule looks like, so that makes it very difficult to create a study schedule, though I highly recommend, if you have more control of your time, i.e. you don't have small children, then definitely make a study schedule because it will help you so much. I've gotten to the point where I will, a couple times a week, I will wake up super early to study, or I will stay up later to study, or if my kids are in bed and my husband is like taking a shower or he's home late and is taking a few minutes to eat his dinner, I will sit and do a few minutes of studying and just adding in little bits. Even if you can't do a full lesson, even if you can only study like 10 minutes a day, doing 10 minutes every day is better than doing 2 hours once every couple of weeks, because I personally have found that if I only study when I have the time to have a huge chunk of studying time, I don't make any progress. I do much, much better with short blocks of time. Also, I want to show you guys real quick which apps I use for studying Korean. So these are the apps I use. The first one is Naver Dictionary. This one is really, really, really helpful for definitions, translations, things like that. You can also find things like webtoons and stuff like that to practice. So I find it really, really helpful. It's kind of difficult to navigate because even when you have it on English, a lot of it is in Korean. But it's useful. I don't use it a ton though, as much as I thought I would really. I also have Lingodeer and Duolingo. These two are both language learning apps. I have found personally that Lingodeer is better than Duolingo when it comes to learning most Asian languages, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, etc. It tends to be better. Duolingo has gotten better though, I will say that. They've really, really improved over the past few months, but I use both of these. This is what Lingodeer looks like. Just looks like this. It's pretty simple. And then Duolingo, of course, we all know Duolingo and that obsessively creepy bird. But yeah, I honestly haven't made it very far in the Duolingo Korean because I don't really love the way it does its lessons, to be honest. It's fine for review. I don't like it for the lessons. Then I also have Google Translate, which I use like obsessively for figuring things out. Like I was double checking. I was pretty sure I was double checking that I knew a word in German and I popped out with the word in German and I was like, wait a minute. I want to double check and make sure that means what I think it means because I'm pretty sure I just said that and double checked and I was right. So I used to have a friend from Germany. So again, I've had friends from Germany, China, Brazil, Russia, just about everywhere. So I tend to know little bits and pieces of different languages. But typically I have this on Korean so that I can double check my pronunciation. This is very, very, very helpful for that because you can use the voice and say something like 안녕하세요. And you know that it can actually understand you. So if you don't have someone to practice with, this is absolutely amazing because you can make sure that your pronunciation is at least correct enough that Google can understand you. So of course, finding someone to practice with is the best, but if you don't have that option or you're too nervous, try using Google Translate's voice option to talk, and it really helps. And then I also use this app. It's Talk to Me Korean Lessons Plus. This is not their official app. They do not actually have an official app right now. But I use this just to access the grammar lessons easily on mobile because their website doesn't work great on mobile. So I don't use this as much anymore because I know that they're developing an app. So I'm just kind of patiently waiting for them to have an app. Not so patiently. It's driving me crazy, but I really want for them to get an app. And then the other thing I use is Memrise. This is probably my most used practice app. Oh, go away, ads. Anyway, Memrise is a pain in the butt sometimes because of the ads. Basically, what I tend to use this for the most is they have all the books from Talk to Me in Korean set up as Memrise lessons for checking the vocabulary. So it has all the vocabulary for all the lessons. And this is so helpful because you can go in and you can see all the vocabulary and it takes you through reviews and things. So you can look to work, which is ilhada, click it, and you can go on, and it has a bunch of things like that. So you can basically review everything that you learn in the Talk to Me in Korean lessons on Memrise. And there's a bunch of different things I have on here. I have the Talk to Me in Korean Book 1, 1000 Most Korean Words, How to Study Korean. I don't like that website very much, but sometimes it's useful. The Topic Korean Vocabulary Lists, and some other things. Now, you can't look for anything other than the official Memrise courses on the app. So if you're looking for like the Talk to Me in Korean Book 1, the 500 Basic Korean Verbs, etc., you're not going to find that on the app. All you're going to find when you look for a course on here literally is like this. Say you click on Korean, all you'll get is their Korean 1 course or their Korean 2. All you'll find on the app, all you can search is Memrise's own courses. Go on the actual website on a computer, and then you can find and add all these courses. But I highly recommend this course if you're working with Talk to Me in Korean as a study guide. Okay, so that is all the apps I use for studying Korean. All right, so obviously I'm not going to like walk you through the lesson or anything that I'm doing because I really can't teach anyone while I'm still learning myself. But I also want to mention the other thing that's helpful is listening to music, of course, because you can pick up on phrases, though I highly recommend not learning a language by listening to music, because a lot of times, especially in Korean, I've noticed this heavily, the words and phrases used in songs don't translate to what would be used in real life. Like a lot of the words and phrases are more poetic and wouldn't be how you would speak to a normal person. For things like that, I've actually found that watching K-dramas is very, very helpful, although of course they get a bit dramatic, but I really like K-dramas, and I actually really like the ones that Netflix has been producing lately. The Netflix produced K-dramas, I've noticed, have had more realistic language, like everyday type language, than some of the ones that are on traditional Korean broadcasting, because they're not quite as censored, if that makes sense. And then just make sure you're also not listening to historical dramas, because just like if you listen to a historical drama in English, they're speaking completely differently and using different words than we use now. Make sure you're watching something modern. Also, things like variety shows, news shows, things like Run BTS are very, very helpful for picking up on Korean language. I would also recommend, there's a show in particular, it's called Playful Kiss. It used to be on Drama Fever, and I'm not sure if you can get on Netflix. I think it might be on Hulu, but look up Playful Kiss. It's been made in Japanese, Chinese. It's been done in Thailand, I believe. They've redone this story in so many different countries, but it's a very good story. It's really, really cute. But all the language used in it, the Korean used in it, is very, very simple. So it's a very simple and basic and easy to follow. It's actually one of the shows that I've been able to start watching without subtitles. So that is really, really helpful. All right, but I'm going to go ahead and get this lesson done. All right, you guys, that is all for studying for today. Usually I will go over extra vocabulary words and things like that, but I'm kind of in a rush today, so I just did this one lesson. Usually one lesson is enough per day, unless it's super short, or you're doing like a 2 or 3 hour study session. But I find that typically all that can stay in my head and actually like get thoroughly absorbed in a day is one lesson. So that's what I did today. I hope that you guys enjoyed studying with me. If you did, and if you like videos like this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe to my channel because I put up new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And you guys can also keep up with me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. I am pretty much everywhere, and all the links for those are down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you again very, very soon. Bye.